Sociology as Political Education by Karl Mannheim, Lecture 2, The Experimental Life and Distantiation from Life. In the previous lecture, we attempted to analyze the sociologist as social human type. At the same time, we sought to work out the specific attitude from which sociological knowledge grows. We reached this topic in the context of defining the essence of sociology, and we claimed that it seems ever more evident that the human sciences, those that concern themselves with man, somehow develop in the element of the whole man, and that the whole man stands behind them. One cannot understand their emergence if one does not also keep in view as background the emergence of this whole man. Accordingly, we next want to understand the objectifications as well as the methods that characterize sociology by beginning with this human type, this sociological attitude. We chose a concrete example in order to exemplify and to recognize sociology by addressing this particular case. We chose an attribute of Saint-Simon, who seemed to reveal what was essential. As we now turn to the analysis, I want to make a preliminary point. We will treat this analysis in some breadth and expand it because I am convinced that the foregoing thoughts imply that you can only know and recognize what sociology is in the process of doing it. The analysis will be sociological. The manner in which we will examine this phenomenon assumes a definite form. The manner of examination is very specific. We do not simply accept the nature of the experimenting man, but ask ourselves, how is it possible that such a human type comes into being? What had to happen earlier to make it possible for such a type to emerge? We examine this spiritual psychic phenomenon, the experimenting man, just as a geologist examines a cross-sectional core of Earth, as if it contained all the layers of past happenings that have escaped us, but that we can again bring into view. We speak of layers only in a metaphorical sense. Nevertheless, a human type, if examined closely, is to a certain extent a representative of what went before. The past is not stored up in experience as if occupying space, but by way of a dimension, by way of an intensity, in a sense, first depicted by Hegel. He coined the expression aufgehoben. In the synthesis, he said, thesis and antithesis are aufgehoben in a threefold sense. First, inasmuch as the thesis, the first positing, is destroyed, aufgehoben, sorry for the pronunciation, can mean destruction. On the other hand, the thesis is also aufgehoben in the second sense, in the sense of retention, and third, in the sense of being taken along, of the entire process. Third, in the sense of the being taken along of the entire process. At the instance of the Saint-Simon example, we want to analyze this being taken along of the past. We want first to approach the quotation again quite directly, and then to question it more deeply. He plunged into life instead of stepping in. This brings an interesting phenomenon into view, as if one could encounter upon the enactment of life in two ways, by plunging or by stepping. One might think at first that it is a matter of the modern, accelerated tempo of life. That is certainly a part of it. One can either live like a peasant who ages in wisdom and does everything with equanimity and patience, or one can plunge in. It is a difference in mentality. One can appropriate phenomenon in different ways. One must keep these things in mind if one wants to grasp what is going on. Quote, he used and abused everything. An excellent observation. One has the feeling that life is actually not there to be used. Things exist to be used, but not the contents of life. He used and abused them at the same time. A very subtle observation, converting a subject into an object. We have here a special kind of attitude towards the object. One shifts things that should be present in a thou relationship to an it relationship. A very nuanced characterization. There has been discussion of the reification of modern life. He infected himself with the illnesses of the century. End quote. The problem of an experimental life. he who wants to see everything must also infect himself with all the illnesses in order to be able to cope with them. This human type believes that it is possible to settle with life only if one has gone through all the possibilities of this existence.